aggression, which is a clear assassination bid by Kiev. Military forces have shot down 2 drones. There is no structural damage to Kremlin, and neither was President Vladimir Putin in the premises at that time. Putin was not in Kremlin during that attack. It is a premeditated terrorist act, is what Russia has said. Russia will take retaliatory measures at a time and place of its choosing. That's what they have said. Meanwhile, Ukraine has come out and said, we've got nothing to do with this attack on Kremlin. Even though Volodymyr Zelensky said that our counter-offensive measures are going to get underway, Ukraine is very clear that their entire plan is defensive. They do not see the rationale of going on the offensive and taking this fight, military fight, into Russian Federation. Territory that belongs to the Russian Federation. Ukraine very clearly saying this is nothing but Russian propaganda, or Russia using this as a basis to increase the intensity of its attacks on Ukraine. Kiev will begin its counter-offensive soon, is what Ukraine is officially saying. Volodymyr Zelensky in Finland also saying the same. Meanwhile, the Russian parliamentary speaker is actually demanded, end this Kiev government, bring down Kiev, is the kind of now voices that are echoing within the Russian polity right now in Russian parliament. Russia is readying its air force, we're given to understand. Russian bombers are on standby. Air raid alerts sounded in Kiev, and Kiev meanwhile is preparing to defend itself and preparing for a counter. So clear escalation, but amidst all that, the big question, will the Russian foreign minister come to India? Abhishek Jha with me. Abhishek, good evening. So far, it's like we thought, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, when we came here, we thought, what are we going to do here? Because it's going to be quiet for at least a day and a half. We land at the airport, Dr. Jaishankar is there. We come to the hotel and we get to know that bombing has happened.
Bombing in the Kremlin, the center of the city.
Bombing, the drone attack. Yeah,
drone attack, really. But it was kind of a sabotage operation, if you say from the Ukrainian side so far, because so far there has not been a clear position by the Ukrainian side whether they were directly involved in that. But we know the kind of the precedents in the past, the Crimea bridge attack, Ukrainian side had never taken the responsibility for that. The Moscow, the largest Russian fleet of naval assets, that was sunk in Black Sea. Ukrainian side did not take the direct responsibility for that initially. So these civilian assets of Russia have been attacked in the past also. While Russia has always blamed it on the Ukrainian side with the help of intelligence input from the Western allies of Ukraine, Ukrainian side has never taken a direct responsibility for these attacks.
Right. But in this case, right now, if the Russian foreign minister, clearly Russia knew of the attack much before it came to light across the world. When we landed, we knew that the Russian foreign minister was coming. We got confirmation, we broke it here on News 18, that the one-on-ones are happening, and that too, that's happening tomorrow. That's the 4th of May. So that means it was all in place. So somewhere, despite what had happened at the Kremlin, we knew, or the Russians had said, we're still coming.
So far, it has been reported that the schedule of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov remains as it was, and there is not going to be any difference in respect to the latest attack or the drone attempt on the life of Russian President Vladimir Putin. And the scheduled meeting tomorrow, we are learning that as Jaishankar External Affairs Minister will be having a meeting, bilateral meeting with the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov and Russian and the Chinese Foreign Minister also.
So Sergei Lavrov actually reaching very early, arriving early in the morning, and it's the morning first half is with the Russians and the latter half of the day is with the Chinese?
Yes, very much, pretty much on schedule, and it also because Russian Foreign Minister will have a chance to interact and have a bilateral with his Chinese counterpart, and he would not like to miss this opportunity at the time when China is increasingly getting into the role of a peace negotiator.
So there's a Russia-China bilateral also that's scheduled.
That is scheduled. That is very much on the card.
That is very much on the card. So it's not just India, Russia, India, China, but also nations who are part of the SCO using this as a platform to interact with each other on the sidelines too.
Of course, and with this summit, that is foreign ministers meeting, a Russian foreign minister will have an opportunity to interact with not only India and China, who are the biggest allies in terms of economic cooperation and who are generating a lot of revenue buying Russian oil and Russian military assets in the last couple of months also. But also he will have a chance to connect with the Central Asian countries where Russia has been a dominant strategic and economic player in the past also, and Russia wants to remain in that role as well.
But somewhere does it also become a platform for Russia to actually put forth its point of view? Because largely the narrative has been crowded by what the West, NATO and Ukraine have actually tried to push in this Russia Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia is the aggressor first, but was its hand forced is a question. That's what Russia claims. And somewhere amidst, will it all be in the shadow of what happens in the next 24 to 36 hours? Abhishek, stay on with us, but I'm just going to quickly bring in Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar and also Andrew K.P. Leung with us at this time. We're hoping that Tatiana Kukreva, Russian journalist, is also with us. Tatiana is also through with us. So, namaste and thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to start with Tatiana. Tatiana, we are looking, I'm in Goa right now, where the SCO summit is going to get underway, and the one-on-ones with India and Russia is going to happen in tomorrow. That's on the 4th of May. We are also standing by for Russia and China to have their one-on-ones on the sidelines of the SCO summit. Sergei Lavrov deciding to come despite what's happened in the wee hours of this morning at 3 a.m., the drone attack at Kremlin.
Of course he did, and that's, it's not a surprise. Although I might, we'll have to check the schedule if he boarded the plane actually before it was known that this attempted attack took place. But look, I mean, it's the same with the Russian president. The country and everybody has been informed that his schedule remains unchanged. He's working according to his schedule. This attempted attack was a stunt more than anything. And the Goa summit is an important meeting for Russia.
But who would pull off such a stunt, and will that now derail certain conversations that have been happening on the sidelines of this war that's drawn on for nearly about 14 months now?
Well, look, I hate to speculate, and I do believe we've discussed this times and times again, that, I'm one of those people that considers the official line actually it's only professional for a journalist to, to yes, maybe sometimes question, but take it into account. And the official, the line that the services, the security services, the Kremlin put forward, that these were Ukrainian drones. In the meantime, it's funny that, for instance, if we were talking about any other country, you would not be questioning the position of the government. Would you?
Right. So that's where you stand, and but one aspect is that Moscow is nearly at least 700 kilometers, if not more, away from Kharkiv, which is actually the nearest city to the borders with Russia, Ukrainian borders with Russia. But clearly, has somebody sneaked these drones in? And are they really Ukrainian drones? The Russian authorities can show it, because they've shot 2 of them down. If they have the mangled remains of those drones, and if there is anything to show that which ordnance factory this drone was made and where did it come from, I'm sure the Russian authorities will share that and will put it out in public domain. But we need to focus on what the impact of that conversation would be, or that development that has happened will be on the SCO here. Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar, do you believe that this will perhaps tilt the tone of the conversations and the focus of the conversations that are scheduled to be had? Because there are lots of nations which are looking at each other with a certain level of hostility, who are part of the SCO. And there are others who are looking at them as allies or vassals.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anand. So, to the first question that you were discussing earlier with the journalist, I think Mr. Lavrov definitely will come and he will participate, because, this is a grouping that is, there would be a whole lot of comfort level as far as Mr. Lavrov is concerned, which you cannot say, would be true for several of the other meetings. Even, when Mr. Lavrov was here for the Raisina dialogue, etc., there were sort of, according to the Russian perspective, there would be sort of, some hostile or adversarial elements that were present. But here, as far as the SCO is concerned, it is a, there's a huge deal of comfort level. He will come and the meetings will take place. I will not say that this will overshadow the discussions, but definitely, when we are talking about safety, security, peace and stability, then this would definitely be an issue, one of the issues that would be discussed. I think it would be the intention of both the hosts and also even Russia that the Ukraine conflict is not does not become the central focus of all their deliberations, because there are so many other important issues to be dealt with in terms of of course, Mr. Lavrov could raise this issue when there is discussion on terrorism and so on and so forth. But I think it will be one of the elements in a broader discussion, deliberation. And at the bilateral level, of course, there are so many things that Dr. Jaishankar and Mr. Lavrov have to discuss. And also with his Chinese counterpart, I'm sure Mr. Lavrov, in all his meetings, he will try to demonstrate to the world that Russia is not isolated, as the West has been trying, or West has been claiming. So I think there's a good opportunity, Anand, for Russia and for Mr. Lavrov to be present here and to say that we have good functional relations, working relations with such a large number of countries and a body which, in terms of area and population, is the biggest in the world.
Right. Antony Blinken has told Washington Post live on the alleged attacks on the Kremlin overnight, and I'm quoting him now, "I have seen the reports. I can't in any way validate them. We simply don't know. Second, I would take anything coming out of the Kremlin with a very large shaker of salt." Tatiana, quick reaction on this before I bring in Andrew K.P. Long and we get into the China conversation.
Well, look, it's a very expected reaction out of Mr. Blinken. That's exactly what I told you 5 minutes ago. That if, for instance, it were, I don't know, say, if there's a Chinese balloon floating atop American cities, nobody questions the American line. If Russia drones, that then the is that we've seen all along.
Well, you have a point there. So you're supposed to trust when America says something, but don't trust what Kremlin says or what Moscow says. And this kind of fight over propaganda and narrative and who's right and who's wrong, time and again, we tie ourselves in binds, and then decades later there are some conversations which say, oh, we were wrong at that time, there was nothing like that. It happened with the WMD conversation with Iraq, and America's position over a decade and a half changed drastically. But let's come back to what is happening here. What is China's point of view here? Where does China now, which is trying to play peacemaker, Andrew, and trying to actually come up as perhaps the voice of peace globally and correct its image, and also there were a lot of leaders of Europe who are trying to engage with China around the Russia-Ukraine conflict. We given to understand President Xi Jinping also spoke with Volodymyr Zelensky. Now with these developments, what will be China's focus at the SCO, or will that also shift?
Well, China's position has been quite consistent. It's always on the side of peace rather than on the side of war. And even though China's relationship with Russia was very close, but this close relationship dates back before this Ukraine war, because the two economies are intertwined together. Now, as far as this SCO is concerned, it's unfortunate that this meeting is overshadowed by this unexpected kind of attack on the Kremlin, because the SCO now is entering into a different scenario where the whole world is changing. It's been reported that something like 20 other countries want to join the SCO. It's not just a fraud platform dominated by China. Why is that? I mean, countries like Turkey, Mexico, Indonesia, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt. I mean, all these countries from different continents want to join the SCO and the BRICS group.
Yes.
Why? Because the world is changing. The developing world is gaining influence. And most of the countries do not want to be dictated just by one hegemon, the United States. They want to seize their own development path. Even India's relationship with Russia is not dictated by the United States.
Right.
And so we're seeing a game changer there with the SCO. I think the China's focus is likely to be on the long term. As far as Ukraine is concerned, as I said, Zelensky actually took the initiative with this phone call to President Xi, suggesting that Zelensky, Ukraine itself, is getting exhausted. In fact, all parties are getting exhausted. Reports are coming in that even the NATO, the side of NATO, the side of the United States, is running out of ammunition. I mean, it's the 13 or 14 months already. And then, of course, as far as Ukraine is concerned, they're running out of bodies. They're dying by the thousands. And then the critical moment will come in this Bangrut and this that part of Donbass. The idea that somehow the Ukraine is going to divide that part of Donbass into two parts so as to cut off Russia from Ukraine is really not really realistic. Even the United States have been saying that this offensive by Ukraine is unlikely to change the picture. So I think that
Russia and Vladimir Putin, You brought a very interesting point up that the whole world is moving towards de-dollarization. Abhishek is still with me. Let me just quickly bring you in. That focus of trying to bring nations, like Andrew was mentioning, you heard Andrew, that there are other nations who want to join BRICS and SCO. There is a movement where nations realize they want to move out of the dollar hegemony or de-dollarization effort. But that cannot happen if nations are at war with each other. For that, India and China have to understand that there's got to be long-lasting peace. Their own strategic interests should not overlap each other. If there is a larger game which has to be played where you try and create a new world order or a new economic order.
And in that larger game, initially India used to be an observer, but now with the 1.4 billion population and a huge market size, India is a potential contributor where world is eyeing to have a large share of Indian investment, Indian trade and Indian market size. And that makes India at a very crucial juncture where world is eyeing for India's support in multiple, treaty, multiple groupings. Interestingly, Anand, USA was initially, when this whole SCO thing was established in 2001, 2005 was the time when US was also trying to apply for the observer member of SCO. Since then, there has been a lot of geographical shift now, and now SCO is being seen as a counter of NATO or other Western US-led organizations with its trade, commerce, and strategic interests very much intact. Now, Iran has become part of SCO this year. Iran will officially be a member of SCO. Iran has now voiced an eagerness to become part of BRICS also just yesterday. So clearly, the West-aligned organizations or multiple cooperations are being countered by many organizations like SCO and BRICS, where Russia, China and other Eurasian countries have a lot of interest and stakes as well.
Right. Yes. Now, the Ukrainian Postal Service, Ukrposhta, has announced the launch of a new stamp after the night attack on the Kremlin. So there is more to this propaganda war and there are others. So is this under all this whole veil of plausible deniability? Were there entities backed, sponsored, who entered Russian territory and then set off this drone? We don't know. It's all up in the air. But the larger strategic concern here is nations of the SCO, can they work with each other beyond trade? Can they work with each other as friends? Will China look at India as an adversary? Will it just delay its expansionist action against India till the time it once again claims a certain hegemony? So if you want to fight one hegemony, should you back another hegemonistic intent nation? What is India's position here, Ambassador Ashok Sajanar? How does India walk this tightrope?
Yeah, no, India has been a member of the SCO since 2017. India, I don't think we need to look at SCO only from the prism of China, although it is a China-driven organization. I think India has huge interest. The Central Asian countries, 4 of which are members of SCO, that is Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. The whole SCO revolves on the centrality of Central Asian countries. So as far as India is concerned, and now as you mentioned, Iran is also joining. So these are excellent opportunities for India to connect with Central Asia, to connect with Iran, and Russia and China also. But I think the focus has to be there, whether it is trade, whether it is commerce. There is also the regional anti-terrorist structure that is based in Tashkent.
Yes.
There our initiative of connectivity, in which we are developing the Chabahar port and taking it to Afghanistan, to Central Asia, and beyond that to Russia. I think the importance of the SCO Anand has further increased recently because of the international north-south transport corridor, because Russia cannot send its goods and products through Europe. And so this INSTC has become it's really become a lifeline for Russia, and all these issues, definitely, whether it is economy, it is security, it is political cooperation, they're all going to be discussed in the SCO forum. And India has a huge interest to collaborate and to share its own best practices with the participating countries. Anand.
Well, a lot of those names and members who you have mentioned, some of those critical heads are already here in Goa. Some of them are going to land. In fact, the Pak Foreign Minister, who we have not spoken about in this broadcast today, is actually coming from China as per media reports. So, and we are given to understand, sources tell us, that the Pakistanis present here right now as part of the SCO, as part of their National Council meets also, negotiators and heads of state also, they're all parroting only the China line. That's the source. We get you more details on our continuous coverage from Goa, here on the Right Stand and across the network on CNN News 18 and the News 18 network. But for the moment, we're going to take a short break. Tatiana, Andrew K. Leung, and also Ambassador Sajjanar, thank you very much. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, it's poll-bound Karnataka, and I join Tejasvi Surya on the campaign trail. Do watch it.
To be in Ukraine, they want to bring the war to Russia. You see more of this happening in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're anticipating a spring counteroffensive from the Ukrainian side. And there was someone in the State Department was saying, you know, this is the most effective way of doing negotiations, is to do it from a position of strength where the Kremlin's on its back foot. And at the moment, the Kremlin is not on its back foot. I mean, the war is ground down to a war of attrition where they're just shelling each other. But with some spectacular successes, some pressure on the Kremlin, then it seems to me anyway that there's a growing desire to see an end and negotiated solution. But the strategy very clearly is to hit Russia with a hammer blow in this counteroffensive. I mean, NATO Stoltenberg was saying that 98% of the weapons that are promised are now in Ukraine, including 230 tanks. And I've only seen concrete reports for about 30 tanks. So it could well be that they've been sneaking in a lot of extra arms and ammunition material, tanks, what have you, and that we're anticipating a big attack. And that seems very clearly to include hitting Russia on Russian soil.
Russia accusing Ukraine of attacking the Kremlin with drones overnight in what they are describing is a failed bid to kill President Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin said that 2 drones have been used in this attack on Putin's residence in the Kremlin citadel, but have been disabled. These drones were disabled by electronic defenses. Russia, it says, has reserves the right to retaliate, a comment that suggests that Moscow might be using this incident to justify possibly a further escalation to the 14-month-old war with Ukraine, or possibly a targeted strike of some kind. Ben Aris is a Russian journalist who continues to be with us. Let me just first try to understand from you, Ben, the kind of visuals that are coming out of this supposed drone attack. Has anything of this kind happened at the Kremlin ever before, this close to the Kremlin?
But this is not the first time Ukraine has flown drones into Russia. And I think it was maybe 2 months ago, there was actually a volley of 6 or 7 drones, and they got as far as Moscow. But they got shot down in the outside Moscow, in the countryside. They didn't actually make it to the city. They came down near an airfield. To actually strike within Moscow itself is a first, and of course it's very shocking. But like I say, the Russians have been anticipating this. They've already had some attacks. So the Ukrainians have shown that they can fly drones as far as Moscow. And they've been prepared. I mean, the Kremlin has defense guns mounted on the roofs. The Ministry of Defense, which is just up the road from the Kremlin, has been reports, and they've had guns, automatic guns, also on the roofs. And so in that sense, it's not so surprising. I mean, it's a shocking attack. But like the Kremlin said, it seems that they anticipated them coming in and they got shot down in good time.
Can I try and understand from you, we are still waiting, of course, the Russian authorities giving us more details, but some of the Ukrainian voices are already wondering whether this is just propaganda and whether there was an actual attempt to kill President Putin or just some other kind of attack that they were planning. How do you see this episode escalating the conflict that is already continuing for more than 1 year?
Well, it's impossible to say. I mean, we have unconfirmed reports. The footage that's coming on the Telegram channels showing smoke around the Kremlin. So I think there was an attack.
7.
This was supposed to be a sit-down conversation over a cup of coffee with Tejasvi Surya, but now it's become an on-the-go in the Govindarajnagar constituency in this entire region. What we're seeing right now, Tejasvi, can you take our viewers through what this is?
Yes. The reason why I wanted to take you around and not do a sit-in was because I wanted to show you the kind of work in person. Because, you know, what is seen is what is to be believed. This is a 305-bedded hospital that our minister here, Somanna sir, went to great extents to build. This is just one. There's another 100+ seater, 210 Puneet Rajkumar Hospital in this constituency. There's a 65-bed free dialysis center that we have made here. More than 20,000 free dialysis patients have been served over the last 1 year here.
Has the housing minister focused only on his constituency or all across Karnataka?
All across Karnataka, there's a housing revolution. Somanna sir is called as the revolutionary when it comes to housing, because this is the kind of big infrastructure creation that he has done. I will show you the multi-story housing complexes that are constructed here. More than 18,000 people have been allotted houses here.
Is this limited only to this constituency, Raksha?
So basically, I feel that this is quite a big one, which can handle not only the constituency, but also the outsiders, because it's completely telemedicine equipped.
Wow.
It also has a hub where it can take in a lot of patients from across the state also. And the best thing is, Somanna sir was very clear that he wanted to have a high-tech hospital. So what he meant by high-tech is technologically high-tech. I think this is the first hospital across the country with complete real-time monitoring of every patient inside the ward or the ICU. If you see most of the dialysis center, it's 600 or 650 rupees for just dialysis. So every time the patient comes and goes, they're not sure. But the INU and BPMP together have a foot ahead, where you can see that the quality of dialysis is given. So patients, if you go, exactly. So what you can see is when his outcome, every patient is improving in weight, outcome, reduction in dialysis. I think that's the key thing that Somanna sir always targeted.
But is this corporation work or is this Vidhana Saudha work?
No. See, this is it was executed by the MLA. The BBMP and the state government work together to execute these things, because the BBMP was also under the BJP.
So should that translate in corporation elections, or you think you'll reap the benefits
It's
even
a
in
triple engine government?
Let's now see the housing. Let's check that out. We'll test that theory also then. So where are we, Tejasvi, now?
So we are in Dasarahalli of Govindarajnagar again. So all of these houses that you see, I was mentioning of the thousands of houses that have been built under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana scheme by our housing minister Somanna. These are all the houses that you are seeing. And this is called the Gulbarga colony. And I'm sure there will be many Tamil speakers also here and you can speak to them. Talk to her.
Okay, I'll talk to her. Namaskaram. Well, the ladies are very happy. They've got their houses. They say it's not just houses. It's got electricity, water, all the facilities also. But they've also put the pressure, Tejasvi Surya. They're saying that the next candidate, the incumbent, has to do better. He has to do the better than what Suman has done. Come down. 85
houses have already been constructed and handed over. 60 are under construction. You will see this in every constituency in Bengaluru. Every constituency. So, this is the strength on which the BJP will come to power this time, because we have delivered. We have positively transformed lives of people. So the Prime Minister's schemes has literally lifted thousands of families out of poverty and given them a more dignified living and existence. So this is the primary health center called Namma Clinic. So in every ward in Bengaluru, all 198 wards, you will find Namma clinics of this infrastructure level.
So is it inspired by the Mohalla clinics in Delhi?
Well, you know, you should go have a look at the Mohalla clinic and then make a comparison study of how this is, doing. Because, Mohalla clinic and the Aam Aadmi Party is all noise and zero substance. Whereas, unfortunately, we have not gotten the kind of publicity and fair treatment by the media.
Oh.
So here is
taking the returns I would pay.
108. The ambulance facilities. So, if there was no code of conduct in place, I would have myself accompanied you to go inside and, shown you around. But you should definitely have a look at how this is functioning.
So you're saying that all of this has been now recently developed?
It's in the last 3 years.
Last 3 years. Well, Tejasvi wanted us to do a check of the Namma clinic. Let's quickly go and check inside in this constituency, this Namma clinic that looks brand new. Well, very clean, quite a big area. Since when is this clinic open?
Since February 8th, sir.
Since February 8th. And what all do you have inside this clinic in terms of facilities?
Like lab and medicines and ANC checkups. That's it, sir.
ANC checkups. And it's there only, this is the clinic?
Only this much, sir.
This much area.
Yes.
And do you have a steady inflow of people and you've been able to treat people?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Has it made any difference to the
Public?
Yes,
sir. Yes, sir. They usually come there again. They come for the follow. We treat them. If we can't, if there is no facility here for them, we will refer to higher center.
Higher sector. And from what time to what time is it open? How many days?
9 to 4:30.
And every day, all days of the week?
Every day.
Let's catch Tejasvi back on the campaign trail. So we are in Govindraj Nagar, Pattegarpalya area, and I have the MLA candidate Umesh Shetty, but more importantly, I have the person who's campaigning for all the MLAs in this region. He's the MP from here, Tejasvi Surya. Tejasvi, what's special about this place? I've lived in Bangalore, and I've always enjoyed the bhaji and tea in these stalls. So what's special about this place?
Two things. One, Kaveripura is one of the oldest parts of Govindraj Nagar. And here you get our very traditional mudde uta, the ragi balls, mudde uta. So, and the other thing that makes this place special is that this small eatery is owned by one of our karyakartas, Rudresh.
Oh, lovely.
So, his coffee and mudde uta and his bhaji bondas are world famous in Govindraj Nagar.
Govindraj Nagar, world famous in Govindraj Nagar. So that's Rudresh.
And also, you will put it. Akriti. Srishti is very famous Instagrammer here.
Oh, so you like to make reels, Insta reels. Listen, you'll teach me how to make Insta reels. Because he is very good, you are very good, I am very bad at these reels. So I need to learn from you. Will you teach me?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's very good at your stall, Shrishti?
I'm very good at painting.
You're very good. What's very good at your food? What should we eat?
Idli.
Idli. Right now, will you give me one of the bhajis?
Yeah.
Huh? Huh? You will? Who makes it better? Your grandmother or your dad? Dad. Dad makes it better. Enough. Just keep 4. So I'm going to taste and I'm going to ask Tejasvi and Umesh ji also to taste. Umesh ji, chance acha lag raha hai this time? Is it
100%. 100%.
Better than last time?
100%.
Better than last time. 100%.
बहुत अच्छा काम किया सोमनाथ जी तेजस्वी जी है
हाँ.
अभी हमारा पार्टी में बहुत इधर काम हो गया ऐसे तो 100% हम लोग ये बार बहुत बड़ा लीड में जीत सकते हैं
फूड बहुत अच्छा है
Very tasty, no?
हाँ वो मेरा ऐसे मुंह में डालते हैं ऐसा वाव हो गया
बहुत एक्सक्लूसिव है ये फूड इधर ये कीर्ति होटल इसका फादर नेम कीर्ति उद्देश
तो
का
20-25 years से आप ये कर रहे हैं 22 years से Rudresh recognizes me from my sporting days. Imagine I'm doing news now and he's recognizing me from my sports days when I was
Amazing.
But how's it been for you?
Very good. There's a lot of positivity, there's a lot of enthusiasm among both the voters and our karyakartas. Especially this time, what I'm seeing in Bengaluru is that people have recognized the great amount of work, especially in infrastructure, public infrastructure in Bengaluru that has happened over the last 3.5-4 years. More than 1 crore beneficiaries are there only in Bengaluru of Prime Minister's schemes. Whether it is our street vendors through the Swamitva, whether Ayushman Bharat, through the Har Ghar Jal, through the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, the Janaushadhi Kendras, so Nirbhaya CCTV scheme, more than 1 crore beneficiaries directly or indirectly from one of these schemes of the Prime Minister, they are in Bengaluru. So I see that compared to the last elections, we will be gaining a few seats in Bengaluru this time. And out of the 28 seats that goes to poll in Bengaluru, we may not be surprised if we touch 20 and even cross 20.
That's a lot of confidence, especially when the Congress has announced a lot of SOPs. Is that not going to get traction? There's 200 units, Bijli free, 2,000 rupees, and now Siddaramaiah is saying 75% reservation. Is that not going to cut ice with Bangalore?
Anand, you're a very senior political journalist who has covered politics across the country. And you realize that in politics, whether it is somebody who is making an allegation against another person or making some kind of a promise, the credibility of the people or the party making this kind of a promise counts a lot. Today, the credibility of the Congress party is zero. Therefore, both the allegations they make on the BJP or the promises they are giving to people, both are gaining zero traction among the public here.
There are a lot of people who are very upset with the BJP. And a lot of what's not been done in the municipality or at the MCD level is translating into at Vidhana Sabha level. And the Congress is very confident of the poll numbers, pre-poll analysts say not just Karnataka, even Bengaluru they'll do very, very well.
Anand, I say this with a lot of responsibility that no party and no Prime Minister in the past has contributed to the growth of Bengaluru as much as our party and Narendra Modi as Prime Minister has done. Let me give you a few examples. The Bengaluru Suburban Rail Project is a 40-year-old proposal. It's 8 years older than me. And it was proposed when the rail connectivity was planned for the suburbs of Bengaluru, which in the last 30 years have now become the urban pockets of Bengaluru. It has grown to become the urban pockets. The last year Prime Minister came and he promised to people of Bengaluru that what has not happened in 40 years, I will get it completed in 40 months. Work is now happening on the suburban rail front in a fast pace. The metro connectivity in Bengaluru, because traffic is a big issue in the growing city, was only 7 kilometers in 2014. Today it has touched 70 kilometers. By end of next year it will touch 100 kilometers, and from any point of Bengaluru you will be able to reach airport in a flat 35 minutes. The satellite township ring road project, which was again pending from a very long time at a cost of 17,000 crores. Now almost 40-50% of the work is complete. Again, it's the double engine government which has got this done. The Bengaluru International Airport Terminal. Correct. 2019, the Prime Minister came, started the groundbreaking ceremony and started the work. Despite 2 years of COVID, 2022, the airport terminal is thrown open for public use. BMTC buses, which is the mainstay, you spoke about municipal issues. The last 5-6 years, you will be surprised to know that BMTC fleet size was near stagnant at around 6,500 buses. In the last 2-3 years, under the FAME scheme, 1,500 additional electric buses have augmented the capacity, the fleet capacity of BMTC.
And I'm very candidly asking, do they actually remember, or do they remember the fact that, you know, there was a change in leadership, there is confusion within the BJP, who's calling the shots in the state? Has Mr. Basavaraj Bommai been able to convince the people that he is not a 40% chief minister, as has been alleged? There are other issues, and Bengaluru, the biggest issue is Bengaluru doesn't come out to vote. The biggest issue the last time also, where you stopped at 104 and did not cross 113, was because Bengaluru did not come out on vote because voting was on a weekend. So this time around,
so briefly,
all these issues...
Yes, so briefly to address all of this, Anand, it's only in the BJP that you find a culture where senior leaders, senior political, veteran political leaders voluntarily make space for the next generation of leadership. This is intrinsic to our party's culture because we are a cadre-based party, and it's from amongst the cadre that next generation leaders are groomed.
Jagdish Shettar, Lakshman Savdi, all of them going...
In all of these seats that you mentioned, Anand, the cadre is very strong. You have seen the BJP from close. We are a cadre-based party. We are not a leader-based party. As long as the cadre is strong, the party is safe. And in all of these seats that you mentioned, the cadre is charged up and inspired. And you will see that the BJP will win all of these seats with a thumping majority.
Well, such was the promise that it will be a sit-down interview, but campaign trails are such that we've got stuck and we decided let's just hang by a Baitu cafe with and continue the conversation with Tejasvi Surya. Tejasvi, this Baitu, where we're going to sit and drink, you were just telling me you're sitting in a rival constituency.
Yes, so this is Vijaynagar, and we have not won this constituency the last 2 times, but we are very confident of a victory this time. The last time we lost the seat with a wafer-thin margin, just 2,000 votes. So we are very confident that this time we will be winning this constituency.
Now, will that be the story of Bengaluru urban overall because of the 28 seats? You're saying 20 seats. Tell me something. I've seen that you are busy campaigning on the ground. What is all this headline about Tejasvi is not a star campaign?
I'm not a star, Anand. I'm a very normal karyakarta of the party. Whether we are
but you're not there on the star campaigner list, Tejasvi. There's huge headlines about it. You're being sidelined. The party is telling you to just, sit at one corner of South Bengaluru.
Well, sometimes it amuses me that media takes so much interest in stories of this nature, because this is not a story that has caught any interest here locally in either the constituency or anywhere in Karnataka. I in fact asked a fellow, a friend, a journalist friend, as to why, the article said that, none of the young leaders in Karnataka figure in the campaign list. But then again, they say that Tejasvi Surya's name is not on the list.
Tejasvi Surya is also BJP.
No, correct. So, but in Karnataka, a lot of senior leaders had to be accommodated. There are various reasons. So then I asked him only why my name was put on the headline. So he said, the clicks on the article will be more. So I said, if it is helping your news, then by all means, wish you luck.
So they are using your name as clickbait.
Whatever. If it is helping them, it is helping them. But as far as I am concerned, we are all very simple karyakartas of the party, hard-working karyakartas of the party. Whatever work the party assigns, that we keep doing.
Oh, so the coffee also comes. So as the coffee comes, this is the famous Baitu coffee.
Yes.
So, well, this is now getting in that cutting chai. It's now Baitu coffee. So it's the same chai wala glass. I don't want to leave Bengaluru because of this. I can drink Baitu and Baitu of coffees. That's what that's what I can do. Tejasvi, I'll be honest with you. My first sip of coffee today, and when I come to Bengaluru, I drop the tea. It's only coffee. But How much of the caste dynamics comes into play? Is it still a dominant thing? Because you mentioned something about Labhartis. Now, Labhartis cut across segments there because the economically weaker section. They cut across castes, cut across communities. Will they rise above their caste considerations? Because you have this Vokaliga, Kuruba, Lingayat, so many other groupings.
Anand, caste is a factor in India's politics today, and it is something that all political parties take into consideration. And representation of all castes is also something which is very important in a democracy, because shared political power, shared voices at the citadel of power is also a very important hallmark of an inclusive governance. The BJP, insofar as the distribution of tickets is concerned, insofar as giving representation to the marginalized sections is concerned, the BJP has done a very thorough job of making sure that almost every section is represented. Despite in some constituencies, even if a dominant caste belongs to a particular a caste, a different caste is given an opportunity, because in the overall district matrix, a balance of all communities has to be made sure. So ensuring that there is an inclusive representation and there is diverse representation of everybody, the ticket distribution has been done very fairly, and I'm very confident that this will reflect again positively in the electoral outcomes.
Three things that you think will work for the BJP and three things where you think the BJP will be challenged.
Three things that will work is this. First, people of Karnataka have seen in the last 3.5 years the positive outcome and positive governance of the double engine government. In the last 5 years, when the country had Narendra Modi ji as Prime Minister and Siddaramaiah was here as the Chief Minister, people here saw that most of the development which the Prime Minister intended to give to Karnataka did not come in the measure and speed and scale in which it was intended to come. In the last 3.5 years, 4 years, especially even during the COVID pandemic, we have seen how lot of legacy issues, whether it is irrigation in the case of say Mahadai and Upper Bhadra, whether it is in the case of infrastructure like the suburban rail in Bengaluru or the Mumbai, Bangalore-Mysore expressway, most of these infrastructure issues have gotten solved. The second thing that will go in our favor is the very positive environment created in the state through the hard work of the BJP Karyakartas. BJP, Anand, is not like a seasonal crop, which is like, mango season aa gaya, so we have mango, tarboos season aa gaya, tarboos. So we are not a party that, mushrooms only during elections. The Karyakartas of this party were with the people even during the most difficult times, even during COVID. They are there even now. The third factor that will go in our favor is that this time Karnataka is looking forward for the next 5 years. And people of Karnataka, mark my words, will give 26 to 27 seats to Prime Minister the next elections. So the
That's
people,
a big one.
100%, because we already have 25 plus 1. So it's just, matter of another 2 seats. So people know that 2024, anyway the Prime Minister will come to, Modi will come to, par in the center. The state should not, lag behind over the next 5 years. So I think these are 3 very important factors that are going to help.
You think you have a convincing state leadership dynamics? Basavaraj Bommai is doing a good job, that's what many say. Others say it's not great. It's the same corruption irrespective of any party. He's not able to keep the party together. There is too much of caste division, everybody's ambitions. It's not a cohesive unit. All of these come to the fore. Given all of this, are you confident of getting simple majority?
100%. And the reason for this is again the good leadership that our Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai has given. I mentioned about a few legacy issues. All of them were addressed in the most politically dexterous, most politically mature way that only a seasoned veteran political leader of the stature of Bommai could do. The internal reservation was a hot potato.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to touch it. It was like a Pandora's box. But he addressed this issue most deftly, most dexterously. Everybody is happy today. Insofar as his allegations of corruption is concerned, this whole 40% Sarkara jibe that the Congress keeps leveling against us. Who is leveling this? The Congress, who is sitting state president is out on bail on corruption charges, whose former two national presidents, both Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, are out on corruption charge or on bail on corruption charges. When Siddaramaiah was the chief minister, he very meticulously, deliberately dismantled the Lokayukta, and in its place he brought a puppet called the ACB. The High Court of Karnataka unceremoniously declared it as unconstitutional. Whereas in our tenure, the Lokayukta is strengthened. Most of the cases, including the case of a BJP MLA who was caught red-handed and prosecuted, was done by our own Lokayukta government. So my only challenge, this is a challenge that the BJP has been giving to the Congress for the last 2 years, that instead of making these hit-and-run allegations in press conferences, if you have even shred of evidence, why don't you go to the courts? Why don't you go to the Lokayukta? Why don't you file a PCR? Why don't you go to the High Court? Why don't you approach the CAG?
My final question to you, when people call you names or when people, why do they have this penchant for abusing Prime Minister Narendra Modi? We saw Mallikarjun Kharge ji, the Congress president, use the kind of language that he did, and then he said, I take back my words, I apologize. So why would somebody as senior as Mallikarjun Kharge go back and do the same thing that has never paid dividends to the Congress party from 2005 onwards?
The ground beneath them is slipping. Even in Mallikarjun Khargeji's home constituency of Gulbarga, just 1 month ago, the BJP formed the corporation, and the first time we elected a BJP mayor there. But this didn't make national headlines. It should have ideally made national headlines because the home constituency of the AICC president, the corporation went to BJP. So the frustration, the desperation, and knowing very well that the people are not, buying their, the decade-old, tried, tested Jumla politics is what is pushing them to make these kind of statements. You may have seen just 2 days ago, there was a small clipping of Chief Minister Bommai and Siddaramaiah bumping into each other at the Belgaum airport. It was widely shared in Karnataka as a sign of bonhomie, as a sign of gentlemanly politics. This tradition is what Mallikarjun Kharge has broken by very viciously, disgracefully, disgustingly, personally attacking the Prime Minister, who is the most respected and loved political figure of Karnataka. You have seen in 2014 and 2019 that even in those seats where the Congress is traditionally strong, people have overwhelmingly voted for the BJP and for the Prime Minister. Very distasteful, demeaning remarks against the Prime Minister by the Congress President will be the last nail in the coffin, the Congress coffin on the 10th of May.
Well, who they punish, who they reward, it's up to the Janta, and we'll know, like he's saying, on the 13th. 10th is the result, voting, 13th is the result. On that day, with the promise that we should connect again.
Absolutely, Anand, 100%.
So, one last sip of this Baitu coffee with a cheers. And we wind up this fantastic conversation.
Thank you so much, Anand.
Fantastic as ever.
And have a good stay in Bengaluru.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Tejas. Thank you.
Well, joining us now are two champions, men's doubles champions at Badminton Asia, and it's happened after 5 decades. Bade time ke baad hua hai. But whenever I speak with them, I feel like I'm talking to youngsters who have seen grow over the years from the academy of Gopi sir. So Chirag Shetty and Satvik Sairaj, namaste, Jai Hind, and first up, congratulations. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So let me start. Let me first start with the cliched question. कैसा लग रहा
है? Well, I think it feels really, really good. I think, like you said, it's almost after 58 years, to be precise, that someone from India has actually won the Asian Championships, and it was a tough field of players. I think like all the top 8, top 10, top 32 players, I would say, were participating. So it's never been easy, but both me and Satvik had this thing in our mind that we want to win as many big tournaments as possible, and I think Asian Championships would
championships would definitely be one of them. So yeah, I'm really happy that we could actually go out there and win that.
कितना भी effort लगा लो सात्विक, there has to be that some amount of X factor, no? That divine intervention बोलिए, luck बोलिए, कुछ भी बोलिए. Did you at a time during this tournament feel कि अब की बार लग रहा है अपना time आएगा, अपना number लगेगा? Did you feel it? Because there were a lot of instances where you got a reprieve, you got a bye, you came from behind in the semis also.
There was a time like we gave concede to other players, we gave walkout to other players. So recently, if you see, we gave many chances to others. So this time I feel luck came in our favor. It's not a luck. I would say like we almost played every match. In semis as well, we won the first game. It's not like they didn't play. We won the first game. We took the chances. Then in the second set, it was close 13-14. Then maybe he fell down, something happened. But apart from that, everything was mental this tournament, mentally how strong we are. So we played really well. In the finals, it was more tense for us because the stadium is packed. So it felt like playing in India only. So at that point, I felt like while entering court, आज है, कुछ तो है, अंदर कुछ तो है, power है, मतलब luck है.
Then what happened in the final? There were times when you guys were up, but a lot of times you were actually playing catch up, from the first game onwards. Quite intense. But you guys have beaten these guys recently only in Basel, right? Chirag?
Yeah. Actually, when we won the Swiss Open, we actually beat them in the semi-finals. But it's always a very neck-to-neck battle with the Malaysians. They are a pure defensive pair. They like to defend as much as possible, and we on the opposite hand player prefer attacking as much as possible. So it's always a battle of the defense versus the attack, and it's always very tricky playing against them because they have a really strong, solid defense. So it always usually goes until the very end into 3 games, and this time around we weren't really playing at our best, I would say, till 13-7, and we were pretty much being dominated by them. But at 13-7, something struck, and we got a couple of good points. Then we got a few like receiving mistakes from their end as well. With Satvik was serving really well, and in no time we were back at 13-12. And when we were 13-12, we for a fact knew that we are pretty much back into the game, and we can take this game through.
So whenever I do mistake, Chirag steps in. Whenever Chirag is having a bad day, I steps in. That's how it's worked with me and Chirag. So always we keep on encouraging, always. So it doesn't matter like 1-2 mistakes. Doesn't matter in the full game. We have a lot of points, so we don't take it too much to the head. And we have a coach behind us, so he keeps on telling like.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Brass Tacks on the Road. We are here in Karnataka, coming to you from Bengaluru city, overlooking the majestic town hall of Bangalore city. As this campaign reaches the final stretch, the last few days in the battle for Karnataka, one issue is dominating the narrative, and that is the Congress's proposed ban on the Bajrang Dal. The BJP is hoping that this is the one issue that will help galvanize its cadre and its karyakartas. Will it? Because the Congress feels the Bajrang Dal is just as much an extremist organization as is the PFI. Through the course of the show, I'll be speaking to some top voices from the BJP. The Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai had a sit down with me. I also spoke to the young and firebrand BJP MP from South Bangalore, Tejasvi Surya. They believe this is the lightning rod issue they needed in this final stretch of the campaign. But is it an issue that could potentially turn this election? That's what we'll find out tonight on Brass Tacks on the Road. So it's the final stretch of the Karnataka campaign. It boils down to these next 3-4 days.
Is the campaign now suddenly changing in the last week or so? Ever since Prime Minister Modi landed up here in Karnataka and started campaigning, first from the personal attacks on the Prime Minister, and then, of course, the Congress's manifesto promise yesterday of banning the Bajrang Dal. Is that turning this election? Let me now introduce a very special guest who is joining us, the Chief Minister of Karnataka, Basavaraj Bommai. Thank you very much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Do you believe that this election, which up until maybe 2 weeks ago was a neck-and-neck fight, maybe even your opposition, the Congress had its nose ahead, in the last 2 weeks, there seems to be something happening on the ground that is sort of shifting the ground from beneath their feet?
Certainly there is upsurge in the last 15 to 20 days. Once the seats were settled down and the battle was set up, we have been having a lot of advantages. But for that also, before that, a lot of groundwork has been done by BJP cadre, and the entire party was geared up. The workers are in high spirit. That has helped us to take up a lot of issues straight to the people and try to convince them. And second issue is that whatever Congress tried to do, which is totally lies,